I'm really sorry guys, I think I've underestimated one of my most favoured tanks in a long time within the game, and I've really thought that this tank would be terrible in the past, but it's not. And it is, of course, the free tank this season, the jagdtiger 8.8. And after many buffs throughout the years, I think that they've actually got it to a really great point within Wot Console. And of course, today's video is going to showcase what this thing can do when you get it firing and when you can get it into the correct positions for the tank itself. And what do I mean by the correct positions? Well, you're about to find out. And by correct position, basically you want to get hold down, and that's because the armour of the tank got buffed massively, and by massively I really do mean it. The tank now has one of the nicest superstructures for a tier 8 premium tank destroyer, and of course it makes really nice credits as well. And when you think that the jagdtiger 88 is actually one of the tanks that probably back in the day was one of the worst premium tanks that you could purchase, because it didn't really have much going for it other than the fact that you could release shells every so often, which yeah was good, but was it really that overpowered? No. No, it certainly wasn't. But since the armor buff, you can sit in front of people now, albeit when you're coming up against, you know, tanks that haven't got like ridiculously high penetration like a Scorpion G with premium rounds or something like that, because that will still go through the frontal superstructure of the tank, but so will pretty much any super high penetration round into any tank that you're playing against when you're playing in something like a Scorpion G. But here you're seeing what the jagdtiger 88 can do, and don't underestimate this tank. You're seeing rounds bouncing off of us, you're seeing us being able to just crest ridge lines with this tank, being able to put rounds into the IS-3 and just whittle his hit points down so easily. It really is just unbelievable how easy it is to play this tank now. And am I saying that this tank is going to be like the be all and end all and suddenly you're going to be able to become like a god tier playing in this tank? Well, no, I'm not saying that, but it certainly, if you're a decent player at World of Tanks, or even if you're not, even if you're a player that understands how to kind of make the use of what your tank's good at, you know, making sure that you aren't just suddenly like coming out into the open of an open field with a non-turreted tank, then yeah, you're going to do very well with this tank. And you can see within a couple of minutes into the game, 2.5 minutes in, 1600 damage, 1400 blocked. And that's the key thing with this tank, is that you can block damage with it. And that's something that I haven't really noticed with the jagdtiger 88 in the past, but since the recent buffs, it really is one of those really nice. And I think that you can pick this tank up at season rank 85, so it's not particularly too difficult for you to get your hands on it. It might even be slightly less than that. It might be season rank 75 even, if my memory serves me right. But yeah, a tank that you'll be easily able to achieve, and it is free as well within the game, so you don't really have to put any money into it, and considering you're getting a free premium tank back from it, I really do recommend you spend that 2,000 gold to be able to get the season pass, or alternatively, you know, just play for free and get the tank anyway, because I believe it is a free tank regardless of if you have the season pass, even just the base version of the season pass, or this one. So yeah, definitely make sure that what you're doing is picking this tank up, because you won't regret it, and it really is a great way to kind of train up your German crews as well if you're wanting to get some true crew training done, and of course if you want just a tank that can release rounds every 3.8 seconds to be able to do 200 damage. Yeah, it really is fun to play, and I can't really say that for a lot of tanks within the game. I think there are tanks that are like okay within World of Tanks, but there's often not that many that can like consistently do really well, and this tank can certainly do consistently well. You can see what we're doing here, just putting rounds, and we don't necessarily have to hit every single round against things like the IS, because we reload so quickly, and because we have such great DPM, it doesn't really matter. At this point in the game, we've picked up 3,500 damage, which is a very good result for this tank. And so yeah, we're not really too precious about keeping the remainder hit points. We're going to win this game. It's 11-5. They'd have to pull off an absolute miracle to be able to kind of pick up the victory here. But regardless of that, we've picked up 2,200 block damage, which is, to be honest with you, pretty nice in a tank that once had terrible armour, now has very, very good armour, and certainly not a tank to be underestimated, especially armour-wise, because if you just auto-aim this tank, you can't pen it anymore. Or, well, to a degree, unless you're auto-aiming the side of it, at which point you probably can, but regardless of that, from the front, this tank is really, really good. And you can see what we're doing here is just putting a couple rounds into the tanks that we know we can pen, 3,700 damage. It just seems like it's easy mode when you play the jagdtiger at the minute, and I believe that this thing may even get preferential matchmaking. Don't quote me on that. I believe it does, which means that you won't be coming up against tier 10s in this thing, which may or may not be true. I'm not entirely sure. I should probably know that. But yeah, I'm sure any of you in the comment section will let me know and yeah, help some other people out as to whether this is a preferential. I believe it is, but it might not be. And unfortunately for us, the Barras decides that he's going to come around and puts 2 rounds into us regardless of the fact that he was auto-aiming most likely. But we managed to pick up both the LTTB and the KV3 in rapid succession, and we're going after the Barras now. We absolutely derp that shot. Will we derp the last one? No, we won't, and we'll pick up the final kill of the game, 4,534 damage. A really, really, really good result for the jagdtiger 88, and this was the first game that I actually played in the tank. And so it was a massive surprise to see that this tank was actually, in fact, one of kind of my most favoured tanks actually in a long, long time. 4,534 damage, 1,273 assistance, combining to, well, 5,700 combined damage with this tank, 2,200 base experience, which is quite a substantial amount actually. Usually if you have like an above 2,000 XP game, it's really, really good, and so you can kind of compare that. 2,460 block, which is fantastic as well, and you can see pretty much everything was best in game, so an utterly insane result in the jagdtiger 88. Let's jump into another gameplay before we end up this episode. Now then, on Great Wall, once again, seems like this map is kind of prone to the German tier 8 tank destroyers within the game, but yeah, regardless of that, we are of course in a tank that can actually shift a little bit. Is it as fast as the Ferdinand that we showcased in the previous video, or at least the previous German tier 8 tank destroyer? No, but what it does have is, yeah, you can definitely get into some very nice positions, and what I want to take this early part of this game is to kind of talk about the positioning on Great Wall, because since it is a fairly new map, and if you're interested in trying to find out some good positions and areas to go on the map, I typically, personally, never go up to B9 and B0. It's possible to go up there, you can have really good games, but for me personally, I enjoy the kind of corner fighting, the engagements that you can have in G4 and also on J3 and that area over there. J3 and J2 are fantastic areas for those of you who have gun depression when you're trying to play in the game, but if you haven't got gun depression, you can use the G3 and G4 area, and then if you manage to get up there and you don't have gun depression still, you can then go into the area at F5, and that is something that we will be doing within this game, and that will allow you to get some fantastic shots in some opponents that really won't be expecting you to be able to get there. And when you've got such great DPM, you can push out that damage really, really nicely onto the opponents that you're coming up against, and especially when you're coming up against tier 6s within the game. And considering that you are coming up against tier 6s, it won't be preferential matchmaking tanks, so yeah, this tank is definitely able to come up against tier 10s, I believe, then, if it's able to come up against tier 6s, so +2, -2. And yeah, but now this is something I want to showcase, is of course you can see the Tiger P here, who's made an aggressive play at the beginning of the game, which is not necessarily a bad one, but we're going to be able to get into this position and we're going to carve him apart. 3.8 second, remember, reload. 1, 2. And from this point, we're a little bit hesitant because we don't know what's across the valley. They could be able to put some shots into us, so we can't just go all in. But Tiger P makes a mistake here. He's coming towards us. But since we haven't taken any shots, we can be able to kind of be very, very aggressive against him. We'll just farm him in the cupola. Why not? He won't be able to pen us because we're basically hold down at this point, and now he's either got to make one of two decisions. Does he just YOLO us, or does he try and back away so that it becomes like almost negative for us to push all that way down to be able to then get a shot on him, and then we may or may not get taken out? Obviously from this position, a very, very easy way to earn a ton of kind of damage early on within this game. And we managed to snapshot the Tiger 1 A18, which was really, really nice. And now we're just trying to kind of get some shots on the STG. We managed to feather 1. We're kind of just predicting where he's going to be. And unfortunately, there's buildings in the way that become a problem. But talking about problems, we've got a KV-85 on the left. Now this gameplay is a very, very kind of intense gameplay throughout until the end. And we have a KV-85 that's decided to come up, and then we also have another tank destroyer. Now, in most tanks, this would be a pretty terrible situation, but not in the jagdtiger 88. There's 3 tanks now, even worse, coming up against the Diamondback, and with a gun that fires super, super fast, that could be really, really dangerous. But no matter, we are playing in a tank that can deal with them, and we've got an 87 now advancing rapidly towards us, but we can put some rounds into him. That's 2 rounds into him. He's literally not able to do anything. We've got a KV-85 that's now being aggressive once again. He's now moving forward. Can we put 1 round into him? Yes, we can. We take him into account within our game. And now we're up to 3,000 damage super early on in the game. And this is where the jagdtiger is just unbelievable. At least the jagdtiger 88, that is. This is kind of where I may have made a little bit of a misplay. Now, am I saying that I made a super bad misplay and that I'm going to be terrible within this game? Well, no, but what I mean by that is, you know, we could have definitely done better within this game if I just kind of thought about it a little bit more, if we decided to be a little bit more aggressive, which we definitely could have been within this one. But unfortunately we weren't, and the Diamondback now comes around, which is disappointing to say the least. And then in that same fashion, the 87 now comes around, and unfortunately for us, the Tiger P on our team doesn't decide he's going to try and actually take a couple of hits to kind of improve our longevity, but we can just dish out as much damage as possible, and unfortunately we get taken out within the game. 4,300 damage. And you could see how quickly we racked up that 4,000 damage, and that is where I think that you can showcase just how great this tank is. Yes, we got taken out. Yes, the tank definitely can have weak points when they manage to get that lower plate of yours when you're kind of exposed entirely, but you could see when we were actually hold down, we were able to block damage, and we still managed to come away with a really, really good result. We'll skip forward to the kind of end of the game, at least. And you can see the victory screen right about now. And so, yeah, a really, really good result. We managed to come second in a game that we literally didn't even survive to the end in. 4,300 damage. And we also managed to pick up quite a decent chunk of block damage. Which was equal to 1,000 damage, which is nice. And this is where I think the jagdtiger 88 is so much better, and why I am so sorry to the jagdtiger 88. It used to be terrible, and I think I tarred it with the same brush, and unfortunately I paid the price of not being able to play this insane free tank that is currently within World of Tanks. So make sure that you get your hands on this by getting to rank 75 within the season pass right now, and if you have already, let me know what you think of this tank. Have I overestimated it, or have I underestimated it? Did I not even show how great this tank can be? Yeah, let me know in the comment section down below, and if you want to check out any other gameplay like the actual non-premium version of this tank, the Jag Panther 2, the kind of similar sort of tank, but much faster and with much more alpha, but yeah, a similar sort of playstyle. Other than that, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day and a fantastic rest of your week, and I hope you join me back in the next video. Goodbye.